Hello and welcome to Meet the Expert. So today we have the wonderful Kath Clarke from kathclarke.com talking to us about inspiring and finding herself, her journey of transformation and manifesting her dream life. So stay tuned and I'll see you on the other side.
I feel you, I want you, I know your touch is all I need. I'm waiting, you're shining.
Good morning and welcome back to another episode of Meet the Expert, where we bring together the most transformational leaders and entrepreneurs in the field of health and wellness and all across the globe to bring you, the listener, inspiration and transformation and a wealth of knowledge from all the wonderful people we have on the show today. So today we have the wonderful Kathy Clarke. Now, Kathy is absolutely amazing. She is known as a digital traffic chick. She is the founder of the Feast program and co-owner of One of Many. Now, she has impacted thousands of women across the globe with her businesses and her own just lovely yumminess. She is known as the master copywriter, niche finding ninja, and the proud supporter of many entrepreneurs. Now, Kathy's vision is to help as many women as possible so that she can build a tribe of passionate clients to make the difference that they were here to put to. Now, Kathy, I'm just so honoured and pleased to have you here today. And I know you've got an amazing story of your own transformation from marketing and journalism to TV and baking. And I'm so honoured to have you on Meet the Expert today. So welcome.
Thank you, my love. Thank you. First of all, I just have to correct you. I can't be called Kathy. It has to be Kath, or I might have to stab you in the arm with It's always, you know how everyone's got one of those names that they just can't handle?
Yeah.
That's
yes.
Anyway.
Sorry, my love.
That's fun. It's totally fun. I get Kathy, Kate, all sorts, but I'm Kath and Kath and Kath. Anyway, thank you, Jeani. Thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and it was so lovely to meet you at our training that we did the other day, and really, really thrilled that you've taken the time to invite me on the show. So thank you.
It's a pleasure, absolute pleasure. And I must say, your training the other day was absolutely mind-blowing. So I could highly recommend anyone who's even thinking about going in and having some training and getting someone in. Kathy's your lady, I swear.
So the other day we did some sales training, and I kind of broke through some of the myths around sales, I think. And anytime anybody has that kind of the word sales in their heads, that it's like a dirty word, right? In society, we sort of think of the used car salesman and being pushy. And so it was an absolute pleasure to have a group of really inspirational women who are on their own kind of health and wellbeing journey, actually being able to break through that construct that they've put in their own minds that's really holding them back. And I guess that's kind of what I do so well is really open up. I don't know, shall I just start telling my story of where I've kind of come from and where I'm going? Is that what you'd like me to do?
Absolutely. We're all dying to hear your story.
Oh, bless. So I guess what I wanted to kind of share with you was I guess now I kind of feel like I've been told by I've got a soul coach who taps into your soul purpose and why your big why, and kind of, when you're going through life and you've kind of got this inner knowing that you're something more and there's something more there for you, and you you can't quite put your finger on what it is, and you haven't got the lens or the framework to kind of live into it, but you know that there's things about your character or your personality that you're good at, like you're a nurturer or a lover, or you're really good at project managing or whatever, but like, what is that actual thing, and how do you what's the career move or whatever it is that you can live it all through, that kind of framework, you know. And I think all entrepreneurs are looking for that framework to live the rest of their life through, because if you are an entrepreneur or business owner, it's not about going off and earning a wage from 9 till 5 every day. It's about really bringing all your passions into it. And excuse me, it's early in the morning. Get that frog out of my throat. And yeah, living through that kind of finding something that you're so passionate about that it is actually the framework for the rest of your life, so that even when you're on holidays, you're finding opportunities and you know, and things that interest you or feed into that passion that, you know, you can kind of take in, soak in, turn into your own and put back out there. So I guess that was kind of, you know, I always knew I had an inner knowing that there was something more for me. And it wasn't until I met my soul coach, Grace Ambrook, who's obviously Australian, and clearly so am I. And she kind of gave me what she calls the key to I guess, you know, my key of what would, I don't know, just put it all together, you know, brought all the pieces together.
Yeah.
And I found out that I was a door opener. And that was going back to this training that I was running for you guys the other day. That's what even though I can use it through the constructs of marketing or sales, or even project management to an extent, actually, it's I guess what my gift is well, now I can own that too, by the way. It's like, I feel funny saying me and my and whatever, because, you know, I'm probably deep down not very self-confident, just like the rest of us, you know, so it sounds odd, but anyway, we're talking about me, so I better do it. And she said to me, your gift is opening doors for people, and particularly these women that have a massive message to share in the world, and just have no idea how to get it out there. And my job is to open the door and hold the space and the vision for everything that is possible for them. But my job is not to push them through the door. And that was actually the biggest learning of that key, because so often, you know, and with sales as well, so often you can end up being really pushy if you can see, especially if you can see the vision for somebody, you know, if you meet someone, and for me, unfolds in front of me. Like, I just go, like when I met you, I'm like, it's all there, you know. I could see exactly where you're headed, what you're trying to achieve, and it's intangible, so I can't put my words to it yet, but I just hold that vision for you, you know. And then but, you know, so often I was making the mistake of trying to push people through the door, and that doesn't work either, you know. So it's just about letting people know that there it is, there's the carrot, this is what we're shooting for, and I'll hold that space for you while you move towards it. So I guess, you know, throughout my life and my journey, which, as you said in the intro, has been quite random, I'd say. Like when I set out, when I graduated from uni in my early 20s, I didn't sort of, I didn't really have any idea how things might end up. Couldn't have predicted the path. And I think that's so often, you know, the interesting thing when you set out, you sort of, you might have a bit of an idea, and at school we're told, you know, go on, even if you want to be an actress, go and do something sensible and have something as a backup and all of the things, you know. And so you sort of graduate uni, and I mean, I graduated uni in 2000 and, God, what was it? 2001. Oh my God, I'm old. And in 2001, you know, there was some pretty defined careers. Like digital marketing wasn't even a thing. Brand strategy wasn't even a thing, you know. And but what I was great at was writing. I loved writing. I loved observing the human condition. And most of my favourite lessons weren't actually in the classroom at uni, but sitting in the cafe and watching life go by and everybody coming in and out, and, you know, and just sitting there and writing about them all. So I ended up kind of working on ended up working in television, actually, and working on documentaries. And so that was great, because I was kind of a storyteller. But I felt like probably most people, like sometimes when you're really good at something, you end up being pushed off down that path, and it's really hard to retract and take stock and push off into the path that you actually really want to be going in. And that was what happened with me with television. So I ended up I was a brilliant production coordinator, and that was that little, I didn't know it back then, but that was that gift of mine of being able to organize and make these big visionary people, so creative directors and stuff like that, make their vision come true, they were terrible at kind of chunking down the big vision into bite-sized chunks so that people could help them execute on that. And I was a really good integrator like that. And so that was the path that I ended up kind of being pushed down, was that more kind of practical side of things, of project coordinating and production and that sort of thing. Whereas what I really wanted to be doing was being completely on the other side and being a researcher and heading down the director path myself. So naturally, television didn't end up kind of satisfying me, I suppose. And I just went, in about 2007, I got married to my husband, and we took off overseas. And while we were over there, he was an amazing inspiration. He said, you know, we've got a year, like 2 years most, before we come back and settle down and have kids. What do you want to do? Like, what's your biggest dream? What could you do? I was like, oh, I really love cooking.
Wow.
Yeah, he was amazing.
That's
like
incredible.
I know. It's a good way of thinking of things, isn't it? Like, just kind of like, let's just be like the biggest, wildest, kind of big, hairy, audacious goals, and let's just go and do them before we've got the tie down of children, you know?
That's amazing. If only so many other people, you know, that is sitting there now thinking, oh, I wish I could do this. My passion is doing something else. Yeah. If only they could have that little push and that inspiration that you can do that.
Yeah.
It only takes a year or two. Just do it.
Exactly. And that was, you know, he really grew me up, my husband. Like, he really kind of, you know, I felt like I was a bit of a seedling when he met me, and he always had these big passionate goals. He's an architect, and so he grew me up to where I'm at now. And we so we went overseas. He wrote letters to an architect in Tokyo that he really wanted to work for, and he ended up getting a job with him. And then I went there and taught English, and then we swapped and we went to Paris. My big goal was to work in this bakery there for no good reason. I didn't know what I was doing with it career-wise. I just wanted to do it, so I did it for a year. Came back to Melbourne. We were settled there, and I started a little cake business, and that took off. And here's a tip, people. When you start something amazing and you're really passionate about it, be really defined about what you actually want to manifest out of it. Because I was like, oh, I just want to be successful, but I didn't put any definition around what successful was, right? So I was in the newspaper every second weekend in the little epicure section, and always getting a write-up, and, you know, had all these cafes buying cakes from me and all those sort of things. I didn't actually put a caveat in there saying financially successful.
Oh.
So I had all these people working for me, everyone praising my Christmas puddings, and everything was amazing. And, you know, I was in every second cafe and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, one day I was pregnant, and I walked in the door of my bakery, and I had like 16 pastry chefs all working to get their visas, working in there. They all hated being there. They just wanted the visa, and I needed the free labour. So I walked in the door, and then one day I just went, oh, what have I created? I hate this. I've done a university degree, and I'm courier driving cakes across Melbourne 3 days a week. Like, this is insane. So then I hired a coach, which would be my other tip. Like, if you feel like there's some area that you really want to push into or go further with, I just can't recommend highly enough getting a coach. If you like a good coach that knows what they're talking about, you know, because there's a lot of hacks out there, I will say that, but someone that's done it, just modeling, role modeling. I mean, I was lucky. I always had my older sister, who I'll delve into a little bit more in a minute. But it is always so really difficult taking advice off your older sister. Of course, you know, she's still your sister. So it doesn't matter how amazing everybody else thinks she is. She's still my sister. So yeah.
But Kath, how did you get to did you just decide to get a coach?
Yeah, well,
how did that come about?
Yeah, so at that point I decided, you know, it's like anything, right? When you're going through life or doing whatever you're doing over and over, you just decide, you get to the point where you're stuck. And I knew that with that business, Frank Food and Me, which is my cake business, I was stuck. I didn't want it anymore, but I couldn't walk away from it. Like, on a kind of moral level, I just felt like, you know, I built this up and it's doing so well. I just felt like, even though it was quite an intangible business. Like, it was really just a sales and marketing job I was selling. You know, I didn't own the premises or anything like that. So I decided at that point that I need to sell this business for me to feel like I've kind of done the work and it was worth that. I need to sell it. So I knew that I didn't know how to sell without sounding pushy. So I hired a coach that could help me sell it in a really authentic way. And I shoved a sign up in a few cafes with these little rip-off tabs at the bottom, and just totally must have manifested the right woman walking in the door at the right time. And she's now gone and taken that business into where I actually have always wanted it to go. So it's amazing, you know. And Kelly,
Wow.
and Lowry, my coach, and she helped me in the end sell that business for 5 times more than really probably what it should have been sold for, you know, just through my confidence in selling, because I was selling in a way that felt authentic to me. So yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So I guess, you know, after I kind of sold that business and kind of had that first, like, it was only 15,000 Australian dollars. Like, it wasn't very much money, but it was a lot of money to me at the time. It was a year's worth of profit for that business. And so that was like, whoa, you know, like, that was insane. And then after that, I guess I kind of started, you know, I had a child, and I was playing around in the digital marketing space because I really needed to leverage my time. You know, I couldn't have 1 hour of my time equal 1 hour of pay anymore. And at that point, because I'd changed careers a couple of times, like, my hour of pay was really only between 25 and 35 Australian dollars, which is maybe about 15, 20 pounds an hour. And, you know, my husband was in a startup architecture practice, and we were going backwards at a rate of knots. Like, it was insane. Like, I remember one time I rang my sister Jo, who's the founder of One of Many, which is a huge women's leadership movement that we've built up together. And she's absolutely incredible. And I remember sitting on Skype to her and Greg, and I was bawling my eyes out. Like, I was red raw with eczema from head to toe, and just, you know, tears streaming down my face. My husband was, you know, is very creative, and so it's kind of stuck in his ways, and not stuck in his ways, sorry. He prioritizes creativity over finance, you know, worrying about the finances. That was always my department. But I was at home with a kid 4 or 5 days a week, didn't have any spare hours. When I did work, I could only earn kind of 15 pounds an hour. So we were just stuck. I had no time, no money, and no ability to do anything about it, you know, or so I thought. So I started playing around, selling a few things on eBay, and kind of mucking around in that space. And you know, that night I was bawling my eyes out to Joey, and you know, it was a real turning point for me. And one of her best pieces of advice at that point in time, she said, I want you to, like, I mean, you know, I was desperate, and there was really, like, I was stuck, and there was really not a lot she could kind of coach me on, to be honest, because I was dependent on my husband kind of stepping up in the finance departments, which, you know, at the point in his business that he was at, it was really important that he stayed pure to his creative vision. So I couldn't see that happening anytime soon, you know, so really, really was stuck. And she said to me, I want you to go tomorrow and buy yourself a coffee, even though I couldn't afford to go out and buy myself a coffee. She said, I want you to do it, sit in that cafe for as long as it takes, and write down what your life would look like if this problem went away. So for me, it was a financial problem at the time. And so I sat down and I write 3 or 4 pages, and I really painted out the picture, the vision of what my life looked like. And I imagined this house, this architecturally designed house, wall-to-wall windows, looking down over a valley with the mist over the trees, and this kind of glass walkway out to a beautiful pod kind of glass office with a border collie dog on the mat, my big iMac, you know, and the polished concrete floors, heated, you know, and I had this beautiful long cardigan on that I'd bought from one of my favourite shops in Melbourne that I couldn't afford to shop at the time. And, you know, and I painted out all this, and then my husband would come through the door, and I'd have like a slow cooker on, and he'd be down in his furniture workshop or something like that. You know, like I painted out this whole vision. I could smell it, I could taste it, I could see it, all of the things. And you know what? I reckon now I'm about 2 years off that actually happening. So that's
amazing.
Besides was, yeah, exactly.
And you still hold that vision really brightly in your mind.
Yeah, I took photos of the in case I ever lost that diary, I took photos of those pages, and that's sitting on my iPhone right now. And every now and again, I go back and read it, and it is just so accurate. It's exactly where I'm headed. Yeah,
it's so powerful to manifest that way. You know, just so powerful. Anybody that's listening right now, do exactly what Kath just said. Go sit down, have a coffee, and just blurb out the future that you want to paint for yourself. and keep going back to it. Make it bright, make it big, be there, smell it, taste it, just be in that moment, because that is when you start manifesting. Oh, I love that, Kath. Yes. Before we continue, Kath, do you mind if we just stop for a quick break?
Absolutely.
Go grab a drink and we will be back with you in 1 minute. Hello and welcome to the Pure Transformation University members area.
You can put some joy upon my face, pour sunshine in an empty place. Take me to turn 2, and babe, I'll make you stay. I can ease you of your pain, feel you give me love again. Round and round we go, each time I hear you say, this is the rhythm of the night, oh yeah. This is the rhythm of the night, oh yeah. This is the rhythm of the night, oh yeah. This is the rhythm of the night, oh yeah. This is the rhythm of the night. This is the rhythm of my life, oh yeah. The rhythm of my life. Won't you teach me how to live and learn? There'll be nothing left for me to yearn. Think of me and burn, and let me hold your hand. I don't wanna face whirling tears. Please think again, I'm on my knees. Sing that song to me, no reason to repent. This is the rhythm of the night, oh yeah. This is the rhythm of the night.
If you want to get yourself in front of our audience, then this could be your ad right here, right now. You will be able to get your message out to thousands of people within our marketplace. And if you don't have a video ad, we'll help you produce that too. It can be hard in this industry getting your message out to the right people in a place where they're going to have the time and space to listen to what you have to say. But this platform gives you the opportunity to do just that. So what are you waiting for? Let's get started right now. Email martin@everychance.net or contact us via one of our social profiles, and we'll get back to you right away with a way that you can get in front of thousands of people in this space, and we'll put our production team behind your next success.
Hello and welcome back to Meet the Expert, where we've got the wonderful Kath Clarke. Kath has just been telling us about how she has started manifesting her life through the power of visualization and really painting the picture and writing it all down in her book to get to where you are now, Kath. So it's wonderful to have you back.
Thank you.
And you're going to tell us about your story about your sister Joey and building your wonderful life.
Yes. So I guess after I kind of had that vision really solidified on paper in pencil, I'd started kind of inadvertently working towards it. Actually, I kind of shelved it after that, and I just started playing around in digital marketing, and a couple of years went past, and I was earning a bit of money and doing a few odd projects for people here and there, just, I don't know, building websites and little things like that. But I knew that the internet was the place to be as far as like being able to work from home, work fewer hours and make more money. I thought it was kind of in product-based stuff. But anyway, one day, my sister Jo had just had, so she had a very successful business prior to us starting to work together on one of many, called Shift Speaker Training. And, you know, it was $1 million in the first year kind of business. She was amazing. Like, and you know, I'm talking about the sister that you arrive at the first day of school and all the teachers say, gee, you've got a lot to live up to. Your sister's Jo Martin.
Oh no, no pressure then.
Yeah, that's right. Way to make someone feel like a loser in 3.5 seconds in a new school. So, throughout the entire school, time, she was always the intellect. She was good at sport. She was the one that was winning the medals for general all-rounded awesomeness. Very hard to find a niche that she wasn't good at, but I did find one, and it was art. And I remember in grade 12, she said, "Oh, I'd really like to learn how to do life drawing." And I said, "Well, come along to one of the evening classes that we do then." And she comes along, and she was really bloody good at it. And I was like, "Can you just back off?
Oh no,
That's my domain. I'm the drawer, not you."
but Kath, how did that make you feel growing up with someone so big and shiny?
Look, Jo said yesterday, actually, she's got a second kid now, Rosie, who's 6 months old and who gets hardly any attention compared to her eldest one. And she said to me last night, now that I've got Rosie, I really understand what it must have been like being a second child. I'm like, right? You just get left on the floor. And while she was saying that, Rosie was on the concrete floor, face planting and licking the concrete, while everyone else was playing Lego with James, So I'm like, yeah, that was me just, taking the scraps off the floor.
Oh, bless you.
No, it wasn't that bad. But look, I actually think, it's like anyone in any journey of life, it's exactly what made me the determined, courageous, fast processing decision maker that I am. Like if I get fed up with things or if someone doesn't like me, then I've got a bit of a kind of, well, screw you kind of attitude and get on to the next thing, like I don't, of course I've got, I'm sure I've got like any middle child issues around, not being the one that got all the attention and all that sort of stuff. But it's also, there's a freedom in that, because there's no pressure, there's no expectations. I know Jo had a lot of that growing up, she was the one that was kind of forced to go to med school. And by the time they got to me, it was just like, well, whatever you want to do, as long as you're not in jail, that'll be fine, And then I've got a younger sister again, the poor love, who was even, was just like, because I was the artistic one, Jo was the intellect. So where was poor Emmy going to go? She's like, I got nothing, got no options.
Oh, bless her.
So, but I think, I think that it's like anything. You've just got to make a decision to either harness it as power or you can sit in victimhood about it, and
absolutely.
And I always look back at this photo of me at about 3 years of age in a red velour tracksuit sitting on a trike with a big V. I had a fringe and I'd cut a big V out of it because I'd managed to get the scissors. And so I had this terrible haircut, right? And I'm on this trike and we were camping, so I had dirt all over my face and probably snot and dirt and, and I was just like, ugh, and I was like ready to go, and I always look back at that and I think that's exactly who I am. Like, put something in my way and I will push that goddamn thing out of the way, and that's that. But that, I think that was from being a second child, to be honest. Like, what did I have to do to even get past, especially with, like you say, something as big.
Wow, that's amazing.
Jo.
Yeah.
So I guess, Jo and I think there's a little bit of a delay, so feel free to jump in if you ever want to actually ask me a question.
So how is your relationship with Joey? Do you have a good relationship?
Yeah, we're very, very close. I'm sure we were twins in a past life or something like that. Like she always has been the nurturer, and she's never. It's not like she's kind of gone off like a rocket and left us all in a slipstream. It's not like that at all. She's always been very nurturing of me and Em, and always so generous with her. She did NLP and life coaching like back when it was just first a thing. So she was always very, super annoying, how everybody that goes through NLP to start with thinks they've seen God. And so all of a sudden it's like,
yeah,
all the time. That was pretty annoying. But once she kind of moved out of it and took it on as her own, she, amazing sharing. Like I really put down most of my success to always having someone like that pulled me up, It wasn't that she got down in the ditch with me, but she always had an arm down there and pulling me up. Yeah.
That's incredible. It must be amazing to have someone like that.
Yes, absolutely. And, and to not, and I guess, I guess the listeners could kind of go, well, it's easy for you when you were broken POV and you had, someone that was just on tap like that. I mean, look, I was very, very lucky. But having said that, when I, so fast forward a couple of years, Jo and I met up one night, and she had this idea. She'd just come out of maternity leave, and she had this idea for one of many. And we met, and I had like a few figures written on a notebook about how many things I was going to sell on eBay. And we decided we were going to keep each other accountable to our next steps, And when I heard her vision for one of many, I just pathetically folded up my little eBay book and went, I want to do that. So we started on that journey together. And I'll come back to that journey, but that journey precipitated me actually starting my own digital marketing, my own digital marketing business. I was doing done for you service and kind of doing people's digital marketing for them. And then in October last year, I met my sales coach, Gulliver Giles, he calls himself the sales warlord. So you can imagine, how intense he is. He's pretty intense, but he is
intense.
Yes, he is intense. But going back to that investing in yourself, like at the time I was earning 50,000 Australian dollars a year, and I, out of nowhere, like I did not have 2,500 Australian dollars. So for all the listeners in the UK, just divide everything I'm saying by half and you'll get a concept of what I'm talking about money-wise. But, so I did have Jo, and sure, Jo probably helped me get to the point where I was confident enough to invest in myself in a coach. But it was really in that moment where I handed over 2,500, which, was a good, 5% of my annual income to invest in him. I was at that point again of feeling, I'd hit that wall again of feeling really stuck, and so it was in that moment that I had to really decide, do I actually want my life to be different? Like, do I actually want to live into the amazing woman that I am and try and fulfill on that knowing, or am I happy sitting here and stuck forever, and that's the power of the sales training that I now give to business based on his model of making people make that decision on the phone in that moment, because it is so easy to stay where you are. It's comfortable. There's no growth in comfort. That's why people don't do it. That's why only one in a couple of 100,000 will actually bother. The rest of us just go, I'll get paid my salary, thanks, and the government makes it so damn comfortable to stay stuck. So,
absolutely. And there was a really good point you touched on the training at the weekend, was people become comfortable with sitting in their own discomfort.
Absolutely. And I get tingles when you say that, actually. It is like it really takes something to stand outside that and look back at it and go, it's not enough and I'm fed up with myself. And it is amazing how many stories people make to stay where they are, to, even when everything else around them, their relationship, their career, their family, all of that is falling down around their ears, they still can manage to shift the story or the goalposts ever so much just to stay exactly where they are. But I urge you, if you've got some inner knowing that you are destined for more than what you're doing right now, then grab it, and like we were saying, it's an ember. Give it a bit of air, give it a bit of gas, and just see where it goes, because the world needs us, particularly women, to step into that right now. The time is now.
Absolutely. And I've just completely goosebumped with you saying that, because it is so true. And especially in our line of work, I meet so many ladies that come in and they're, they're mums and they're caregivers, and, they've lost their whole sense of who they are and where they should be going, or they don't have that dream. But it's about stepping into that role of being a mum and being a wife, but first and foremost, you're you, and those dreams and passions that you have, they're still there. Go and get them. Reach down and pull them up.
Absolutely. and just touching on that, like I said in the training the other day, I always hate saying this because I've heard so many people say it, and I know what you're all thinking right now when I say this. Oh, it's easier for you, you know, that whole concept of it's easier for you. It wasn't any easier for me to really, and I haven't really even kind of got to what I've done yet, actually. But even just making, what I have talked about is the decision to change. It wasn't easier for me to make that decision to change, because making a decision and taking responsibility for your actions is really, really scary. No matter who you are, what your background is, because we're all, it's like, you know, it's like I talk about the need, the feeling people have of needing to see the entire bridge to get over the crevasse of where they are now to where they want to go. And I've had this a lot of times in my life where I've gone, oh, I know, I've got this inner knowing that I could actually be there, but it's like they don't take the first step because they can't see the whole bridge.
Yeah. That
trust in being held by particularly women, all the other women, you know, like I always had this visualization, actually, thanks to one of the events I went to of Joe's, where I've got this beautiful visualization in my head that all women in the world are actually standing with their arms crossed like this, you know, and holding hands. And we're a massive fabric, you know, and it makes me tingle just saying it. But I always thought, if I step into the crevasse, I can't actually fall because they're all there and they're going to catch me. No one is going to let you go down, you know. There is always going to be, if you look in the right places for support, and if you consciously design your network right now in all those areas, health, wealth, relationships, career, and your community, if you start consciously designing the support that you know you're going to need to step into that next level of you, it can't not work. The universe wants you to be the best version of yourself. It wants you to expand and open up the next layers and the next layers. And let me tell you, it's infinite. You know, it is absolutely infinite. Every time I step into the next level of expansion of me, I think, oh my God, there's more. And the love is so big, and there's more and more, you know, it's insane. And now I have these moments where I've just got to pinch myself. Like, I'm not joking. I literally went from surviving on, between me and my husband, when my little boy, who's now 6, when he was 1.5, we were earning £25,000 a year, you know? So I'm not joking when I tell you that we went from rock bottom to now I'm doing £25,000 in cash a month in my business because of investing myself and just knowing that if I took a step off that and into the crevasse, that the next step that I'd need to step on would actually already be there for me. Somehow it just appears.
It just happens.
Yeah.
It just happens. So my husband got made redundant 2 weeks after we got married. And my oldest now, because I've got 4 children, was only 18 months old. So I was like, shit, what are we going to do? Went out with a mop bucket and a hoover. And within 3 years, I grew a 7-figure company with 19 staff.
Oh my God.
And it was great. And I loved doing the sales and I loved going out and doing it, but I was miserable and I knew it wasn't my passion.
Yeah.
You know, I've gone from psychiatric nursing and always been in the army as a medic, always wanting to look after people and nurture them. And then I'm stuck with this business. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, how do I get out of this?
Yeah. And sometimes
then I ended up
make your own trap, right? You're like, oh, whoops, I'm really successful.
Yeah.
That would be the
how did I get here?
Yeah.
And it just reminds me of when you were saying earlier about when you left, when you went into uni and ended up in the TV career. And it's like so often we can end up on this path and then thinking, oh my God, this is it for me, but it's not. And it took a massive lot for me to jump from there to becoming an energy medicine practitioner and starting from the bottom of having nothing, like literally we had nothing.
Yeah.
And like now building it up. And I had a series of times when I was ill and I came out of hospital one time and I was like, geez, you know, if I keep going this way, I'm not going to be here for my kids. And I literally, this lady, a vet, turned up in my life and this massive support of women. And I don't even know where she came from. I don't know where all these women came from, but they were there, they caught me and they raised me up. And, you know, when you were just saying that, my whole body was just like,
I'm doing that
goose
now.
pimples.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
it's so true. When you just take that investment in you.
Yeah. And they are there. They're there waiting, you know, like, and they need you as much as, you know, like it's just that symbiosis, you know, like they need you as much as you need them, and they are there. So search for them, because I really think that that was what really grabbed me about the vision of One of Many, that this business that like I said to Joan, I want to do that with you. So I ended up being the brand strategist and marketing. And I was getting paid $25 an hour to do it, right? But I said, finally I was sensible enough to say, I want to share in that company. Like if we're going to work this up and I'm going to be, you know, sweat equity my ass off here, I want to share in this. So I did. For years and years, I juggled like 3 things. I still was trying to sell something on eBay. I was doing One of Many. And then also One of Many we needed to take my wage out a little bit so we could afford to hire a copywriter and a web developer. This was like 3 or 4 years ago. So then I started working for somebody else, project managing his Facebook ad business, working my ass off for that guy, like, you know, and I always look back and it kind of annoys me at how much of an advantage he took of me. But again, look for the gratitude in that, because now what I've been clever enough to do to go out and pay other mentors means that I've actually been able to usurp him in income and now run my own Facebook training company, basically Facebook and marketing, and do the whole package, you know, Facebook right through to sales, because I knew, and also something I said in the training to you guys the other day was, whenever you feel a barrier, like whenever you feel yourself hitting up against something and it doesn't feel comfortable and you don't know why, and you know, but all you do know is that you just don't goddamn want to do it, do it. Push yourself and do it, because that was sales for me. I mean, with a sister like Jo Martin, who's got, you know, referral networks all over the world, quite frankly, once I started knowing how to do Facebook, I would have never been without a client. She would have always sent people my way. The problem was, when I was getting clients through her, it was her version really what I was taking was what I was given. I wasn't consciously designing my business. And that's exactly what happened with you with the cleaning, you know, and it was what happened with me with the baking business too. I just kind of took what I got because I felt grateful that I was successful, you know, and it was working. And that was where I really had to shift, through the sales training I did, really, and this, and it's just a metaphor for life, right? In sales, you're holding someone to the highest version of themselves. When you're coaching someone over the line to work with you as an energy practitioner or something like that, like you're helping people make a really tough decision to invest in themselves, which is really hard for women. But in that moment, while you're coaching them, they're also coaching you. You're getting to the point where you can actually, where you're standing for your highest version of yourself and selecting them as a client as much as anything. And this whole idea of the customer's always right and I'll take anyone that comes my way. No, screw that. Choose the people you want to be around. And trust me, the minute you start being brave enough to turn people away and actually working with people that you want to work with, and that goes for friends and family too, like start picking who you want to hang out with, because it will be influencing your version of life and how you want to, you know, who you want to be around and how you see things. And I ran a retreat for my women that are in my mastermind a couple of weeks ago up in the Victorian High Country in Australia. And I just had this moment. We were walking up from our morning walk over this beautiful rolling hill, back up to the property for breakfast. And it was about 7 a.m. And I just looked back down at all these women traipsing up the hill, and all of them, you know, a little reflection of it was like a crystal, you know, they were a little reflection of a facet of my personality. And I love every single one of them dearly and with a passion, you know. And I looked at it and I went, look at us. Like, we're here in the bush where I love being, with all these incredible women. We had a bonfire last night and we're drinking red wine and, you know, and we're learning and growing. And I'm like, this is utopia. And I created it for myself, you know. And this was the woman that 5 years ago was ripping herself to shreds with eczema because she was so stressed, because she was under so much financial duress, you know, with seemingly no way out. And I look back now and I go, that what felt like a no way out for me was exactly the way out. Like, I had to have that. It's like, you know, it's like a carbon and a diamond. You know, you have to have that much pressure on you to find the bloody crack and pop out of it, you know.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you know, you've got all these options open to you, and you don't do anything. I mean, having a sister as a life coach on tap was probably actually part of the reason why I didn't bloody step up before now, because I always knew if something shit hit the fan, I could go and see her, you know. But maybe if I'd invested in $2,500 in myself before I could afford it 3 or 4 years ago, I would be 3 or 4 more years in advance. Who knows, you know?
Wow. That's so, yeah, definitely. That's amazing. Amazing. So before we wrap up, Kath, is there anything inspirational you want to give anyone listening right now to go out and do right now?
Yes, absolutely. I just think I think that when you look back over your life and where you've got to now, I would say, I mean, as much as it's kind of a worn out word, have gratitude for where you've ended up being, because all of those weird little paths that you've taken, like, you know, I couldn't have predicted my trajectory, cake business, TV, God knows what, as a digital marketer. Like, it doesn't make any sense, you know?
Yeah.
But writing my own bio, I'm like, this is weird. but, you know, having had gratitude and taking the learnings out of all of that, like, I think, you know, my number one thing would be, if you can't see how your path is coming together, go and hire a good soul coach or a psychic or someone like that can kind of give you the key to putting the pieces together for you. But then know that fabric has been laid. It's been woven in your own special way, and you have some little unique value in and unto yourself. Even if you want to do the same thing as everyone else is doing, even if you want to be a kinesiologist and there's a million other of them there is something about the way that you're doing things that people are going to organically gravitate towards to, you know, that they just will. And so know that all the stepping stones have been laid, right? And all it takes for you right now is to have enough belief in yourself that you deserve the next step. And don't try and see the whole bridge, just take the next step. That's all you need to do.
Absolutely.
Keep the universe, you know, and invest in yourself.
Yeah, it's all about those little tiny steps that make the bigger picture. Absolutely.
Yes.
And also, for anyone listening today, go and get that piece of paper, have a coffee, sit down and map out what your life wants to be like.
Yeah.
Get clear, make it big, make it bold, make it extravagant as you want, but write down exactly where you want to be in a year, 5 years. What does your future look like?
And take action. Don't just write it down. Take action.
Take action. Absolutely.
Invest in yourself. Yes.
Definitely. And always think, if you're an old lady on your last leg sitting in that rocking chair, what do you want to look back on your life and it be like?
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. Kath, it's been amazing having you on this morning. I'm so grateful.
Pleasure.
So we've had Kath from kathclarke.com, which is CATHCLARKE.com.
KATH.
Yeah. KATH. Did I say it wrong?
Yeah, I know.
Oh God, I'm sorry.
She just doesn't want to get my name right, ladies.
It's all right. I'm looking at it. My brain's just not processing. You had me up so early.
KATHCLARKE.com. There you go.
Thank you. Okay, I'll work on releasing my brain blockages today.
All right, it's all good.
That's wonderful. Kath, thank you so much for being here. It's been such a pleasure. Thanks, and for the listeners, thank you for being here and supporting Meet the Expert. And I hope you tune in next week and you've absolutely loved our call today. Any comments, please leave them in the comment box and I will get back to you. So have a wonderful day and go and do those tips and tools. Bye.